Myths about what sports will do biologically to women date back like 2000 years, and these myths still remain hard to shake. But it only takes one determined woman to change the course of history for everyone after her. Today, I'm going to talk to you about the unofficial sport of my country, cricket. This is a story about history, defiance, and a skirt that changed the game forever. Hi, I'm Nandita, and this is Breaking Ground. As an Indian, cricket is something I have just known to be part of my culture, whether I actually engage with the sport or not. Indians are like that with cricket. And I really truly believe this because as I've become more invested in women's cricket, it has surprised me to see the unconditional support of the general population for these girls. Indians see cricket as cricket, for the most part at least. Of course, India is a cricketing superpower, but the conception of the women's game was not here. Cricket is a pretty ancient sport, and that means women held a bat and a ball way before they kicked a football or bounced a basketball. I mean, I'm talking 1745 early. That's the year of the first recorded match that took place in Surrey. Again, like most other sports we've covered, women probably played this sport recreationally way before this. Over the next century, about 140 women's cricket clubs were formed in Britain and then disbanded when the First World War took place. As you can imagine, at the time it was also a primarily white sport, and the women all had to wear long skirts and bonnets. It's rumored that Christina Wiles, whose brother John was the first cricketer to bowl an overarm delivery at Lord's, invented this method because the ball was becoming entangled in her skirt when she bowled underarm. Talk about game changing. The foundation of the Women's Cricket Association in 1926 marked the start of organized national competitions in England. Up until this time, women's matches were usually one-off games with rewards like plum cakes and ale, and most women's teams were made up of aristocratic ladies playing in the grounds of country houses. Girls from wealthy families also sometimes had the chance to play at school, though a lot of the schools banned the sport for being unladylike. Pushback like this only happened more as more girls started to play in an organized fashion, thanks to the association. Progress was slow for the first 20 years. In a men's versus women's charity match in 1963, England captain Len Hutton famously said that women playing cricket was absurd, like a man trying to knit. The women, as many articles described it, surprisingly went on to win the match. It wasn't until 1976 that the women played their first game at the Lords. That's almost 200 years after they first played the sport. Views like Hutton's were once common, which has meant that women have often been left out of official histories of the game. Going a little bit more global now, in 1931, the formation of the Australian Women's Cricket Council created the first opportunity for a global women's tour. And so, in October 1934, the England team set off to Australia to meet their match. Of course, only the players who could afford to fund themselves for the travel were able to go. But while abroad, they were treated like VIPs. The players said that they were being recognized everywhere. In the years following this, the other big cricketing countries like India and the West Indies also had formed associations. And let me tell you, the first ever Cricket World Cup was played by women in 1973. 2 years before the men played one. England captain Rachel Hayo Flint was the first one to ask why something like this can't happen. And 2 years after she posed the question, England, Australia, New Zealand, Trinidad and Tobago, Jamaica, Young England, and an international 11 played the first ever Cricket World Cup. The experiment was such a success that the ICC decided that they needed a men's tournament too. And since then, it's taken place every 4 years. Women's cricket today is booming. I think it took a little longer to gain popularity simply because the whole world doesn't play cricket. It's not as universally loved or understood in the way that football or running is, but I think we've got there. One of the biggest drivers behind the growth of women's cricket has been the establishment of professional leagues like the Women's Big Bash League in Australia and the Women's Premier League in India. These leagues also offer a shorter, more exciting T20 format that keeps viewers invested and engaged. Establishing leagues like this helped the World Cup in the same format hit big numbers last year. As the sport gains more visibility, countries that were traditionally not considered strongholds of women's cricket are beginning to invest in their teams. This has led to a more competitive landscape with teams like Thailand and Ireland and Bangladesh starting to challenge established powers like Australia and India. What more can we want? We've got viewership, investment, star power, and making the game a space where underdog countries also feel welcome. This is what women's sports is about. Thank you for tuning into this episode of Breaking Ground on the RSG channel. Like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.